Coming up on the DLLS Stars Pregame Show, Game 7, me, Luds, Sam in Denver, and special producer Elijah today. I know, John's on vacation. Seems like every other week. But let's get it going. We have a lot to talk about. The Avs are facing elimination in Denver. Let's go, DLLS style. This is the DLLS Stars Pregame Show. Our Stanley Cup Playoff coverage is brought to you by Bud Light. Bud Light, easy to drink, easy to enjoy, enjoy responsibly. And by Happiest Hour. Check out Happiest Hour for the best spot to watch the NHL playoffs. Alongside Craig Ludwig, I'm Owen Newkirk. Sam Nestler is out in Denver. We'll talk to him in just a second. Along with our producer tonight is Elijah Smith, filling in for John, who is on vacation for a couple of days. Lud, speaking of Happiest Hour, you just spent a little pre-party over there, your first visit to our sponsor. I saw some videos on our DLLS Twitter, both the main DLLS account and the Stars one. I'm kind of jealous. The food looked like it was pretty tasty over there.
Well, it was a happy hour. You know, I mean, it was spending an hour there or 45 minutes, whatever it was. It was, it's not the way it was portrayed to me by Ben. This little bar. No, this is the kind of places I usually don't go to because they're kind of a level above what I go to.
It's not dingy enough for you?
No, it's not. I mean, big screen TVs all over the place, outdoor. Had the flames and stuff going.
Oh, the flame tower.
Yeah,
so see, you fit right
9
in.
yards. As a matter of fact, where I parked was on the street, and I walked up there, and I was actually going into the wrong place.
Oh, no.
Because it was just kind of a smaller place. And Abby was walking from over, and she goes, "Luds, where are you going?" She goes, "No, you got to go over here." I'm like, that big place out, big outdoor area. So it's very nice. Yeah, I recommend it. But apparently, a bunch of Stars fans go there before all the games. So,
well, I mean, it's so close to AAC. It makes sense, right? All right, well, let's welcome in the traveling intrepid beat reporter, Sam Nestler, who is in Denver at Ball Arena getting ready for Game 6 tonight between the Stars and the Avalanche. Sam, first and foremost, travel a little bit more straightforward than the last one?
Yes, I made it. 0 issues. Some funny stories that will be written about, but 0 issues in terms of timing. So very thankful for that. Got to actually get to morning skate this time around.
Okay, so the big news of the day is no lineup changes for either team, but there were some, again, these little tweaks of injury updates from Miro Heiskanen and Jason Robertson. Your thoughts on first, what is it, and then what you saw today out at Ball Arena's morning skate?
Yeah, for Miro, Pete, pretty simple update. Pete said he's not available tonight. Still the same situation. He's progressing every day, skating with the team. He's out, obviously, which to me makes it really hard to imagine that he'd be in if there were a Game 7 here in a couple of days. But for now, he is out for Game 6. The interesting thing to me was I came out after we went in the room. It was an optional skate today, so not everyone was out there. But way after the skate was over, the scratches and Miro were out there doing some pretty heavy 2v2 drills, little mini 2v2s with the nets on both sides of one offensive zone. And there was a lot of change of direction, board battles, pushing up on Miro. I mean, to me, that's the most contact I've seen on Miro Heiskanen, and the most heavy pushing he's done in terms of skating. Change of direction. He was trying to really quickly make quick plays around the net. It looked to me as full health as I've seen Miro Heiskanen. So obviously he's not available tonight, but that feels like another step. We'll ask Pete again tomorrow if that actually is an official next step for him, but it looked pretty good to me. The scratches along with him were going to be the same, as you mentioned. Matt Dumba, Brendan Smith, and Maverick Bork. One interesting point that I kind of forgot to mention the other day, when we came back, I think it was the day we got back from the first Denver trip here, I asked Pete DeBoer about Matt Dumba because a bunch of fans have been asking just, is he ever going to play? What's the story with him? So I asked what this conversations were like and what the situation was with him being scratched throughout this whole playoff. And Pete said look, you play the regular season to build your body of work and prove to us that you can help us in the playoffs. He didn't say this directly, but he basically said, I'm comfortable with the decisions we're making right now, which means Alexander Petrovic, who didn't play with the NHL team very much this year at all, and hasn't played, I think, since the last playoffs when he jumped in after the Nils Lundqvist kind of debacle, is over Matt Dumba in terms of the depth chart. And he actually labeled that. He said, you put yourself on a spot on the depth chart, and these aren't easy decisions, but they're decisions that I'm comfortable with. So barring an injury, I don't expect to see Matt Dumba come in the lineup. I just thought that was something to share since fans have been asking about it as well.
Sam, the Stars are, I think, relatively comfortable in this position. Now, for two reasons. One, they have the lead in the series, so they're not facing elimination tonight. I think that makes a huge difference. It's a very obvious statement, but I'm sure that the fans aren't going into this one as nervous as the Avalanche supporters because they know that even if they don't win this one, there's another chance, another kick at the can. But you get the feeling that Dallas is not taking this one lightly as if, oh, we'll just show up, and if we don't win, that's fine, we got Saturday. They want to try to do what they did a year ago, which is knock out the Avalanche in their own building in Game 6.
Absolutely. And it's said a lot. It's another one of those cliches, right? You'd rather end the series in 5-6 than 7. And that's not just because of the reason that you could get a little extra rest. It's because if Dallas is to lose this game tonight, Colorado goes into Game 7 and it's put the rest of the series aside. Just like in that Toronto series, if Ottawa somehow gets a way to figure it out and get a Game 7, it doesn't matter that it's 3-0. It is Game 7. It's a coin flip. And whoever plays better for 60-plus minutes that night advances. Dallas believes they put themselves in a spot where they shouldn't have to get to that point. So for tonight, the main theme here is to move on from previous games. That right now, that means don't carry too much momentum over in terms of your performance in Game 5, because like they did after the Game 3 win, they came into Game 4 with a little bit of a step back off the gas pedal, as Pete DeBoer said, and it put them in a bad spot, and they got run out of this building in Game 4. So if they come out at all not trying to smack Colorado in the face right off the bat here, they're going to be in trouble. And I talked to Sam Steele today a little bit about it, just another veteran guy, and I asked him directly, I said, look, all I've been hearing for the playoffs is moving on and not riding the waves of emotion. That can be from shift to shift, period to period, game to game, series to series, and especially for the Stars, as we talked about a ton during the regular season, not getting too high, too low during the 82 games. And it's something that we saw with that team. I think Owen and I, kind of laughed about it one time. They had one of their worst games. Pete DeBoer was furious, and then the next day at practice, you would have never known it. There's smiles, they're having a good time, they're skating hard at practice. That, to me, is the strength of this team. And I know it can be frustrating for fans sometimes to hear Pete DeBoer kind of downplay certain things. But the interesting thing that Sam Steele said was, you just lean on the other person. So if you see someone who's getting too excited because the Stars are up 2-0 and they're kind of riding that momentum and getting a little too up on themselves, someone will lean over and say, like, hey, make sure you bring it back. We need to keep doing our stuff here. Or if you get too low, you're down 3-0 in a game, we can still do this, especially in today's NHL. Sam Steele was saying you can come back from pretty much any deficit in terms of a series and in terms of a game. So the most interesting part, though, from Sam Steele was he said it all starts with Pete DeBoer. And when he said that, it kind of clicked in my head where it really feels that way when we talk to Pete. He acts that way. He acts like it's not as big of a deal as we or the fans make it sometimes. And I think that's helped them to move on from bad games, but also to turn the page on a good game and not rely too much on that you're going to be able to do that again. That's the key here tonight, is not thinking they're going to come out and beat Colorado 6-2 in advance and have a few days off. They're going to need to earn it tonight. Expect Colorado's best game.
All right, Sam. Well, enjoy the game. I know you're more familiar with the surroundings now than you were a couple of days ago, so I'm sure that you won't get lost at all. And we'll see you back in Dallas, maybe or maybe not, with a day off tomorrow. It depends on. Ironically, if the Stars play well and win, we have to work tomorrow. If they lose, we don't have to work tomorrow because we have to work Saturday's Game 7. Enjoy Game 6 tonight out in Colorado.
All right, boys. I'll see you.
That's the conundrum, Luds, because we're cheering for the Stars to win this one and get on to the next round. And that's the thing. Like, I don't know about you. I won't speak for you. I will show up to work tomorrow so that we don't have to work on Saturday.
Good.
You?
You can do a show by yourself.
Well, you don't want to.
No,
You don't want the Stars to take care of business tonight?
no, I thought you just said you'd show up when.
I'm not saying I'll show up by myself. I'm just saying I'm willing to root for a Friday workday so we don't have to do a Saturday because it means there's no game 7.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that are listening to this show probably want to be able to take a day off or whatever. But yeah, I just look at any time you've got the lead in a series and you're going into another building, the pressure is on the home team for sure. And they're going to be a little bit tighter and they've got to play a little bit more perfect of a game. Dallas knows that there's, we have another life left, like there's a couple of them video games when you're down to your last life, right? So they've got another life. So, but Dallas has to expect that you're going to see another one of these games like they saw in game 4, I think it was, where they're going to try to ram everything you're down your throat. And, a lot of times you say that you just have to kind of survive the first 3-4 minutes of a game. You're going to push. I think that you may see that longer because they're going to throw everything against the wall. And the guys that have been their best players, number 8, number 29, if you thought that they were, every time you looked at the TV or something like you saw one of them guys on the ice, you're going to see them on the ice all night tonight. And they're going to worry about being able to recoup later.
That's a great point. So there is no tomorrow for Colorado if they don't win this hockey game. So what's the over-under for time on ice for MacKinnon and Makar?
Well, I think that depends on special teams and things like that go into it. But I mean, Cale Makar is going to be 30+. And again,
is MacKinnon going to be north of 25?
I would think so. I mean, and again, he's got a motor on him. It doesn't seems like he can stay out there as minute and a half, and he's not even breathing when he gets back to the bench. So I would expect that. But I think also. I said to you earlier, if I'm Bednar, I had a couple of conversations with, some other guys, and I think they're just individual ones. And, we've talked about Marty Necas. I mean, he's a big forward. And I think if I were Bednar, I'd say, I need to see you get to the net. I mean, we've seen things on the perimeter, getting pucks up to the net and things like that, but you have to get to the net. Brock Nelson, he's had some good chances. I need you to finish. I need you to just stick one of them in the net. That's it. And then, well, I joke about Val. If you're having a conversation with Val and Shushin, I'm like, we need to get your face off of a milk carton because we haven't seen you at all. And the other one is Charlie Coyle. I mean, and again, you look at some of the 3 of those guys that they brought in, and I think Coyle hasn't been bad, but I think they're counting on him to use his size to be around the front of the net. And so I think that as a coach, you're going into an elimination scene, you have those conversations with the guys that can get you past. And you look at how tight some of these games have been. And to me, those are 4 of the guys. And as you notice, I left out Makar and MacKinnon because I think they're giving you everything that they can.
Do you think Makar's played well the entire series or just that the effort's been there? Because I don't think he looked good in the first couple games.
He didn't. And I think he was off. I mean, he had 12, 13 shot attempts, and there was only 1 on net. I think we saw in the last game in their building where he went end to end, and it was like, okay, this guy's here right now. And I think since then he's been better. He hasn't gotten on the board, but I think he's had some opportunities. But again, I think the goaltender for the Stars have had something to do with that.
Let me ask you about the pressure you mentioned, because you said it's squarely on the Avalanche tonight. Obviously, it's do or die. They don't win this one, they go home. But the Stars are a veteran group. They've been through this before. They've been in Denver with a Game 6 where they won and sent them packing. They know very well that while their head coach has an unbelievable record in Game 7s, the pressure will completely flip to the Stars if they lose Game 6.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely does flip because you're at home. Everything's supposed to be in your court. We'll say you play all year long to get home ice in Game 7s and all that kind of stuff, and it's true. But you do play a little bit tighter because you're at home and, your fans and everybody's expecting you to win that hockey game. Avs come in and they're like, well, we're not supposed to win this. We're not the favorites. And so it just kind of flips a little bit. To me, in these kind of games, like in 6 and 7, it all has so much to do with on the first 5, 6, 7 minutes of the hockey game and who's going to get that momentum, directed in their favor to start with, and then can they maintain it?
Do you think that's why some of the Stars fans in our chat are saying that they're nervous for tonight's game is because they know how nervy and anxiety-riddled they'd be for a Game 7?
That just shows you the difference between the Stars fans when we first got here. Because they think you're going to win every home game. Now they understand that now the pressure kind of changes. Even though you do have Game 7, familiar surroundings, all that kind of stuff, now you're supposed to win this hockey game.
So we're going to get into this more detailed in a minute. We have our ad break approaching, so I don't want to get into all of the offensive changes that happened in Game 5, but it does feel, well, you know what? Let's Put a pin in that. We'll talk about that next here on the DLS Stars Pregame Show for Game 6.
What's up, Stars fans? Here we go again. Enjoying the game should be easy, so don't overthink it. What to wear? Done. Throw on your favorite Stars jersey. Not sure what to serve your friends? That's even easier. Pick up some pizza and grab some Bud Light and stock up the fridge. You may need a little extra tonight. It could go on for a while. See, it's that easy. Just like Bud Light, which is always brewed with 4 simple ingredients for a clean, crisp taste. Bud Light, easy to drink, easy to enjoy, but remember, do it responsibly. Bud Light, St. Louis, Missouri.
All right, let's talk about Sleeper. Best fantasy league platform out there. Put your puck or your ball knowledge to the test by picking whether your favorite or least favorite players will have more or less than their projected stats each week. Now, John isn't here tonight, but he gave me his picks. So I'm going to read producer John's game picks for tonight with his video running over on the side. Mikko Rantanen, more than 0.5 goals is John's first pick. So he thinks the Moose is going to get his second goal of the series after scoring in Game 5. Then he's going to go with Cale Makar, less than 0.5 points. He said Makar has less than 0.5 points in 3 of the 5 games of the series. So he's going with the majority on that one. Esa Lindell, more than 2.5 block shots. Esa has done that in 4. He's been more than that, 4 of 5 games in the series. And finally, Cody Ceci, less than 2.5 block shots. Ceci has had less than that in 4 of 5 games in this series. If you bet, you put down $10 on this ticket, you will get $172.96. Remember, with Sleeper, the more picks you combine, the more you can win, all the way up to 100 times your money. If you think you have what it takes, new users can download the Sleeper app and use the code DLLS Stars to get $55 in free entries when you place a $5 contest. Apply it to any contest, doesn't have to be your first. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for detail. Currently operational in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper today. Okay, what I was going to bring up before the break, and now we can do, Luds, is the offense. We spent a good chunk of our pregame show on Monday before Game 5 talking about how the Stars are one of the lower scoring teams in the playoffs so far. Then they went out and scored 6. What was the big difference?
Goaltending at the other end of the rink. The guy that comes in halfway through the season for the Avs, Blackwood, has, and all the talk leading up to it, no playoff experience and everything else. He had one poor 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever, well, however you want to narrow it down. Prior to that, he was great, and he did everything, and Dallas had some great quality scoring chances. So I just think that, again, if you're Dallas, you remember that start, and you remember how you got that momentum, and you wrestled it away from whether a team had it or didn't have it. You got it into your favor, and so you have to direct everything at the net. So I think for Mackenzie Blackwood, he's probably going to be prepared for shots coming from anywhere, and I think that's probably what they felt. And so I think, but from Dallas's standpoint, you continue to do it, and let's pepper them early. But they're going to have to find ways to get there early, because I just think there's going to be that pressure that Avs are going to continue. They're a very good team that doesn't rely on all their skill. They don't have to make 4 or 5 passes through the neutral zone. They will get to a certain area. They put the puck in, and I think that they like to create momentum with forechecks and kind of being hard on the body. Not hard, but just a steady diet of it. And I think they thrive off of turnovers, and they got guys that jump in and do things like that. So to me, you've got to get through that, and it's nothing new. It doesn't mean that Dallas is on the back foot. They're at home. Their fans are there. I know how, if there were a Game 7, or let's just say it was Games 1 and 2, you're at home, you know how you come out as a home player in your building. I mean, you got the fans behind you, and you always seem to have a little extra juice in you. So, and you got to be careful with it. You can't let it overflow a little bit and take a bad penalty and things like that. So I just think that it's going to be a tough first 5 to 7, 8 minutes in the game. And as long as Jake is Jake, and I will say this, remember when we had somebody do a super chat, and they were talking about there were 12 for 12, only 12 even strength scoring chances. Remember that?
The scoring chances are shots
was
on goal.
I think it was shots on goal. I think it was shots. It was shots on goal.
I think it was Matthew, wasn't it?
Yes. And I told you, I said, it's been sticking in my head for like a week or so. There was something else that's been sticking in my head since Game 4, and it was a shot of Jake Oettinger. And it was after the second period when Jake came out. And there was a picture of Jake on the bench. Elijah, you got that shot? So, and I kept seeing this over and over in the last, 3 days, whatever it is. And I went back and I paused it and I looked. And the look on Jake's face to me is he's running through everything. And to me, this is, I will be ready and the next time I step on the ice.
That's mental strength to be able to know, he was playing well.
Park it. Yeah,
right.
And knowing that
Compartmentalize it.
and they communicated all that stuff to him. Jake, this is not on you. Before they took him out, I think Jeff Reese probably came down, and I think Sean even talked about it.
Yes.
But there's a conversation. This isn't about you, Jake. This is the way we're playing. Maybe there's a little bump, but if not, we're not going to take a chance on anything here because it's slanted downhill. But that look, I keep looking at Jake, and I haven't talked to him, obviously, but I'm thinking that's a guy that's already looking forward to the next game. So I think that if there is a barrage in the beginning, or regardless of when, what, if, Jake Oettinger, I believe Otter's going to be the guy that we seen. How many years ago was it in Calgary? Back here?
3.
Remember that 50-some shots or whatever it was?
The
Ridiculous.
21
yeah.
playoffs, right?
I think that's the Oettinger that you're going to see here. Okay,
it
regardless, I don't know.
It was Rick Bonus's last year because Pete was 23, 24. This would be Pete's third playoff run. So it was 22.
That look right there, to me, is the reason that they signed Jake to a long-term deal, because they know the internal of his mind and the competitor that he is. And I kept going. I don't have anything, and I looked at it when it was live, and then I just took a still shot of it. This is what I believe is what we're going to see tonight is going to be Oettinger when he's called upon. He will get the job done.
More on the goalies in a minute, but Elijah, we have a couple super chats, so let's get those while we have a minute. I don't want to do it when we're at the very last second. First one is from Burned Oils. I know I'm asking Elijah to do all the things. Don't forget the one sounder that everybody's waiting for. Bing bong. There it is. A Canadian. This is a Canadian Brendan Smith in Year After the Cup. Sounds like Lud's had the time of his life. Guessing he's talking about happiest hour.
Well, I would say time of my life, but I was pleasantly surprised. Let's put it that way. The way Bobby and everybody else that was over there, I thought it was this little tiny place, and it's just the opposite. It's a very fancy. It's kind of out of my caliber, but yeah, I enjoyed it. And you get in there and you see the big towers, Bud Light sitting on the table, and the nachos and the wings, and I'm in.
And then, Elijah, this one's going to require a little extra because we have to do the bing bong, and then there's another drop request. Bing bong. And that is from Ardell with a Ludwig, and it's Get Ready, Boys, if you have it over there. He's looking for it. Play it whenever you got it.
Just roll it out. You know what you do, Elijah? Just keep hitting buttons. It worked for me.
There it is.
There may be a moose that comes up. Yeah, okay, there you go.
Lud started hitting
buttons.
Don't
be afraid to hit the moose button, too, because I think he's going to go off tonight in Colorado also.
I want to ask you another question about goalies, Luds, because Mackenzie Blackwood had the literal polar opposites of his last two starts. He had his first ever playoff shutout in Game 4, and then he got pulled after 40 minutes in Game 5. Now, when Jake was lifted in Game 4, we all agreed it had nothing to do with his performance. Right. It was about the team in front of him. When Blackwood was lifted, it had a lot to do. No, it wasn't just him, but it had a lot more to do about his performance than it did Oettinger in Game 4.
Well, because of the way the two goals went in, he was rattled.
Yeah.
And I think the players can sense it, and I think, and it's not that he lets in 4 goals after that, but you can see how things were going on around him where he looked unsure. And I think he was just rattled. And again, you and I were talking. I had said, and watching the Toronto-Florida series, right? And I had said to
the
Owen,
Tampa-Florida series.
Or sorry, Tampa and Florida. And I said to Owen, I said, if you flip-flop goalies in that series, the series isn't over, in my opinion, because Vasilevsky hasn't been good for the last 3 years anyways, but he was not good in these playoffs. But if you put Bob over there, I think this series is still going on, and Tampa may be in the lead, regardless. But if you flip-flop Blackwood and Jake Oettinger in this series right now, who would have the lead? And I think that's for the fans, that's for you, it's for anybody that wants to answer that question. You put Oettinger in their jersey from Game 1, and you put Blackwood in this jersey over here. And you can't say that Blackwood's been poor.
No, the first 4 games he was great, but the return to mediocre in Game 5 Does he have something to prove tonight because of that?
Yeah, he has to prove that it's between his ears.
Yeah.
That's where he has to prove it. It's a mental thing that he has to prove to his teammate. But again, as teammates, they're going to be, let's give our goaltender a break. We know that he's been good through this. And yeah, he had an off 4 or 5 minutes or whatever it may be. But we've got to allow him to settle in. So if we're going to give him shots, let's make sure they're not coming from them high danger areas. And let's get it from the perimeter. Let the goaltender feel the puck and make some saves. And let's not get this extra traffic around them. Now, on the other side of the coin, Dallas has to make sure that there is traffic around him early.
So, Luds, I was looking at the stats for save percentage in the series. And now after the 5 games, Jake has a better save percentage at .914 versus Mackenzie Blackwood's .909. But take away game 1, where the Avs scored a bunch of goals. A couple of them were puck lucky, just like the Stars in game 5. If you take away game 1 stats, Jake has the second best save percentage in the playoffs. Only one better is Freddie Andersen in Carolina at .929 does Jake. Blackwood is at, for the last 4 games, is .898. Is that more impressive to you, or the fact that Jake is 3-1 in those games and Blackwood's 1-3?
No, it goes to the point. Like, if you flip-flop goalies to me, Jake has been really good. And I don't think the team in front of him played that well through that. Jake is the reason it's where it's at. And yes, we can go back and we can look at a couple goals. And me in particular, there's a couple of them that even MacKinnon scored on the power play that I think Jake should have made that save, or there should have been this one. There's a couple fluky goals in there.
Yep.
But everything else, he has been, that second period last time in this building, it could have been 7 goals.
It was one-way traffic.
And you know
for
what?
Colorado.
And you could see, and when I was watching it again this morning, Jake looked tired. And I think that's what they saw. I think Jeff Reese saw that from upstairs and said, listen, there's been so many of these chances on him. When he's getting up slow and he's moving slow. We got to get him out of there. The series isn't over. We got a long way to go. Let's get him a rest. And I think it was a smart move to make. We'll see if it was a smart move. But regardless, I don't think they were coming back in that game.
No.
I think only bad things could happen. So I just think Jake has held up his end of the bargain. Yes, there's probably a couple that you would like back, but that happens to everybody in the playoffs.
All right, Elijah, let's take a look at the playoff bracket around the entire NHL with the last few minutes we have of our pregame show. As you can see on the East, on the right-hand side of your screen, Florida has moved on. Washington closed out the Canadiens last night. They'll play Carolina in the second round. Florida awaits the winner of Toronto-Ottawa. As you can see, Toronto has a 3-2 series lead. They also have a 3-2 lead in the game right now. Ottawa tied it, and then Toronto took the lead. They have about 3 minutes to go as Ottawa's trying to fend off elimination at home tonight to force a Game 7. And then on the bracket again, real quick on the other side, you have the Western Conference playoffs. And boy, a lot to talk about. As you see, Winnipeg has the lead along with Vegas, who's playing right now against Minnesota, and then the Edmonton Oilers, who could have been eliminated already with the way the games have gone, but they've fought back valiantly, and now they have a chance to knock out the Kings. Luds, the big thing I want to talk about is Jets versus Blues, because after Game 5, where Winnipeg got the win, their head coach was not happy. Mark Scheifele will not travel to St. Louis for Game 6. The coaches, Scott Arniel for the Jets and Jim Montgomery for the Blues, exchanging words through the media post-game. Bring out your popcorn.
Yeah, and I think Monty got ahead of it. I think what happened was Monty got out and he made an adamant point that when Scheifele got hit in the head, he played another 6 minutes after that. And I think it was Foxa that hit Scheifele after that. And he said that's when he went out. Whether that's the case or not, it was a very smart move. He did not go down because of that. And then you get coaches on Arniel on the other side, and he's like, well, I didn't know he was a doctor. But again, now you've got this kind of sparring going back and forth, which you love. But the bottom line is, yet the guy that's winning another Vezina has not been that good. I mean, he let a goal in. I think it was Snuggerud or somebody. Yeah, that was not a good goal. So he hasn't been great either. He hasn't lived up to, well, he actually has lived up to what his playoff history kind of is. He hasn't been a great goaltender in the playoffs. So, but, if you're a Stars fan and if everything comes out the way we hope it comes out, we want this series going to 7, right? I mean,
absolutely.
And I'll
you
tell
want
you
them
what,
to force a Game 7 in Winnipeg.
I have things that I will show you that were the battle, and it will be a battle because both of these teams are so good at going to the front of the opponent's net. And it is a war in front of the net. And so Dallas will see that regardless of what team they play. And I honestly
isn't that
don't
what
know.
Vegas did in the first round of the Stars last year?
Yep. And
both nets. They're good at both net fronts.
And what happens, you're right. And in their zone, they're big and strong defensemen. They don't play a man-on-man kind of thing. They set up a wall. There's times that they'll grab a guy, but for the most part, you have to get through some giants of men in front of the net. And they play what I consider, good, solid playoff hockey.
Well, it'll be interesting to see if Ottawa can do this, but we do have a super chat before we sign off. We have a watch along again tonight, so you can join us for the whole game broadcast while watching us talk about it. Echo Spark with a Heiskanen 99, longtime Stars fan. Thank you, Luds, for helping make Puck Off happen. Best goal song ever.
It was an easy one. I had nothing to do with it, obviously, but it was a great song.
Yeah,
we had a couple great ones. We had the song that died or
If
something like that. Just faded away.
You and the guys that established a friendship and a relationship with Pantera, if you guys hadn't done that, that song never gets made.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of credit for you on that.
I paid my dues.
You did. Yep.
Just ask my liver.
Yeah, but you probably enjoyed it in the process.
I did.
All right. So post game, of course, immediately following, watch along is up next. You have to find the separate YouTube link. It's right there. Search the DLS Stars. We will do that. Full watch along coming up at about 8:50 or so. And then post game, maybe we'll be a celebratory moving on to the second round. Maybe it'll be a get ready for game 7 on Saturday. Either way, we'll have a lot to talk about. Thanks for joining us here on DLLS. For Elijah, Luds, Sam, I'm Owen. Enjoy the game.
We all silly like the mayor.